So thank you for introduction, as you had. I'm climatologist and know almost nothing about landscape, heritage, protection policy. So if you are going to ask me questions, let's all climate-related questions addressed to me. All other, you see another guy. Okay? But I try to do my best talking about landscape, cultural landscape. And if you want to know what kind of expert I am, I can speak hours about weather and climate extremes, climate anomalies, development, predictability, many other things, almost climate change and climate models. So our talk will spin around geographical things, mean classification, mapping, examples, and also about climate extremes. First of all, my colleague made a classification of cultural landscapes. As you see, 3 types, very simple classification. First type is highly protected, mounts or hill forests, as they called. They were protected already in Soviet times. And the other type, opposite, is almost nothing interesting, is intensive agricultural lands, which are plain, owned by large landowners, and has almost no importance. And the second part is something intermediate between them, as you see. The second step was a mapping of some features of cultural landscape concerning archaeological aspects, heritage aspects, UNESCO sites, also recreational. And when we match all together, we got a very sophisticated picture. You see some areas of intensive color, some shadowing, hatched areas, and as area is more intense in color, it means higher importance for our cultural landscape. And according to all these steps, some 5, I think, yes, 5 big areas were defined where importance of cultural landscape was defined as, as recreational potential, as landscape scenery, and according other features. And you see some parts in eastern Lithuania, where is located Ever National, Aukštaitijos National Park, southern Lithuania, Samogitian Upland, and Curonian Lagoon, Curonian Spit. Finally, when we took all together, we got some map of areas of high visual and aesthetic value, and also here you see with some areas with very intense colors and less intense colors, and all these, so say, high importance areas are located in hilly region, and almost no importance you see in the middle of Lithuania, northern Lithuania, and southwestern part of Lithuania. Now let's try to talk about climate change. I saw today already some of you talk about these 5 categories, and these categories hide below or under some specific features. If you want, I can run very quickly about all these types of climate features, like temperature, precipitation, weather extremes, landslides and erosion, and floods and sea level rise. If we go from down to top, sea level rise is very negligible, but it's very sensible when we have storms. And our port inhabitants know very well when we have strong storms, the same magnitude of storm has bigger impact as was 20 or 30 years ago. And the floods, we have almost no spring runoff floods now. No snow, no permanent snow cover, no frozen soil. Our spring runoff floods move to winter months and decrease in magnitude, and almost unimportant. So, because of this shift, we have early spring droughts, which never were observed before, especially in April, never was observed before. Landslides, our slopes are not very steep, and hilly region is not very high, so we cannot speak about significant landslide, but I will show some examples at the end of presentation. Most important or most interesting is extreme weather, which hide a lot of phenomena. And sometimes we talk about storms, yes, but storms could be windstorms, like produced by intensive and deep cyclones in wintertime or autumn time, and convective storms, which are usually summertime phenomena and related to intensive convection, heavy rainfall, sometimes squalls, and even rare tornadoes. Now, precipitation. Precipitation, yes, it changes. And I saw in some slides that somebody declared that precipitation will increase. But now we already observe that precipitation patterns on spatial and temporal scale changes. We have more precipitation in winter, but this precipitation is liquid. It has no impact on soil moisture in springtime. And it has big impact on trees growth and tree diseases. And for example, in summertime, we have more extreme precipitation, but not uniformly distributed across the territory. So some areas has insufficient moisture, another surplus moisture. And finally, temperature. Temperature, all you know that temperature is rising. It's okay, it's rising. We had more heat waves. The frequency of heat waves increased maybe twice during the last 50 years. But we have also tropical nights, which is best precursor of droughts. So heat waves, these tropical nights, it accelerates drought development. And dry periods are now more frequent than 30 years ago, maybe twice or maybe third time. And also we have late frost now. Vegetation season starts maybe 20 days earlier than was before, 20 or 30 years before. And the vegetation starts to grow. And for example, in this year, in the beginning of May, we had in some places -10 on the ground. It made a big damage for not only for agricultural plants, but also for coniferous trees. Good, let's go further. How we can detect changes in landscape, in cultural landscape, if we have no monitoring sites and monitoring system. The best technique is probably photography. It could be personal photography, aerial photography, even Google Maps from satellite. In some cases, when we have big areas, damaged areas, and if we do in different seasons some things with the same amount of light, at the same elevation of light, with the same sky conditions, we can do some good conclusions for our landscape changes. What the long-term effects of these climate-induced changes? First of all, we have tree diseases or some pests who attack the trees, and the biggest problem we have is with the spruce. I can't read this Latin name, it's quite hard for me, but it's typical of spruce, and I saw that the same problem in all the Central Europe, up to the Bavarian pre-Alpian mountains, but the best place where spruce still feel good is Switzerland, because the middle altitude in this country is much higher. And spruce are dying in some areas, as I read in forestry-related reports. In some areas, almost 80% of old spruce already died. The better conditions with pine, but in some areas in Lithuania, especially in southern Lithuania, we have monoculture pine forests, which also were highly affected. Mixed forests is more or less seems to be stable. Also, under the danger is relict agroforestry areas, which you see here. But I could say I don't know much about that. Let's go to the extreme weather. Here you see the last year devastating windstorm, but not windstorm, it's convective storm, which was observed in northern Lithuanian sites and southern Latvian sites. And somebody said that it probably tornado, but nobody observed tornado, because tornado have cube form, let's say, visual appearance, but nobody saw. And according to my experience, it could be very strong squall, up to 35 meters per second, but very short, but very damaging. And recovery from such storms is very slow and painful. Also, you see probably the example from this park is from the last year. Also from the last year's storm, and you see how it looks, all trees after such a storm. And no active or efficient protective measures we can apply. And these climate extremes working together, shifted precipitation patterns, increased temperature, mild winters, no snow cover conditions, together are favors for trees' health, for decreasing of trees' health, and diminishing their resistance to climate change effect. Another problem is urban areas, urban landscapes. You know that urban areas are full of artificial surfaces. It could be concrete, asphalt pavement, roofs, what else? Decreased underwater moisture, some salty waters which can affect tree roots during winter road maintenance. And in our urban area, we have larger effect of climate change factors. For example, during this workshop, I had that mitigation and adaptation measures in Vilnius, if I have it correctly, in Vilnius, Old Town Central part is normal, it's good. But now I lead some small scientist group in the Horizon project. We focus on pluvial floods. Pluvial floods means not river-induced floods, but floods induced by heavy rains, torrent rains, very short-lived and high intensity. And when we started to analyze data, we saw that even after some changes in changing pipes, changing collectors, building new accumulation basins, the heavy rains still in such city like Vilnius can bring very big losses. And you saw probably the picture from Geležinio Vilko Street, yes, right? Who presented? I don't remember. Yeah, Narbuto, yeah, but the same is in Geležinio Vilko Street also. And only we already implement this project the 4th year, but fortunately or not, we hadn't devastating pluvial flood. Not in all, but in some places in Lithuania, we had already in Klaipėda, in Western Lithuania, probably in Panevėžys and some other smaller towns we already had, but in Vilnius not, still. And probably you heard about last year, October, devastating flood in Valencia metropolitan area. And we invite to talk one professor from Valencia Polytechnical University, and he said that devastating flood has return period as 3,000 years, as once in 3,000 years. So instrumental meteorological period lasts only 200 years, but according to their estimation, such a intensive and large floods can occur only once in 3,000 years. So no other measures they implement before and felt safe, as he said, all municipality heads felt safe. They did everything for city health, but such intensive rain during 1.5 day but affects even human lives and big losses in property and infrastructure. So if we start to think about such intensity rains in Vilnius, also we can expect very big damages. In central part, where building density is very high and still increasing, and green areas shrinking. And finally, we have 2 examples. You see, one is from Gediminas Castle Mount, another in Tauragė region. It's 2 landslides. One is fully artificial in Gediminas slide. Probably you heard a history about what was the start. The start was made in 2009 when some heritage experts with some big team, not only heritage specialists, but also geologists and some other, I don't know, they decided to remove all trees from this hill. And 8 years, they have good result, good scenery from many sites. But in 2017 was very humid year, especially in summer and autumn months, and landslides start to move. The second time was 2018 and 2022, and they invest probably few $100,000 euros and maybe more. I don't know exactly. I'm not sure. And still they cope with such an effect. And another more natural, which starts during winter 2023 in, let's say, not very urbanized territory, but due to very intensive rain in November and January. And there was probably a twofold effect of river washing the coast part and probably some on the street or on the way constructions which were not prone for such an amount of rain. That's almost all. I don't know if oh, sorry. I don't know if it was interesting for you, but I did my best.
Thank you very much.